Hey, this is Darren with Engadget. We're taking a look at Android 4.1 Jellybean, unveiled here at Google I/O 2012. So you'll see the familiar lock screen here. We're going to go into the camera. Going to be taking a look at some of the subtle tweaks made in 4.1 compared to 4.0. Now this is a Samsung Galaxy Nexus. The phone was launched with 4.0, but it's going to get 4.1 in mid-July. So the camera here looks pretty familiar. If you've used this device before, not too much different here, but the gallery viewer, you just pinch here, you can swipe through your photos. If you swipe back all the way, you'll actually pull back into the camera. It's pretty handy. It's actually really smooth in use. So I'm going to pinch here, and then to get rid of the photos, you can just swipe up or down. And if you messed up, there's an undo button there at the bottom, similar to what you'd see in Gmail to retrieve that photo. It's also a 1080p movie mode. Again, nothing too unfamiliar here, but things did operate quite briskly. Project Butter is supposed to get everything running at 60 frames per second, even on existing hardware, and they've done quite a good job on the Galaxy Nexus. And of course, there's the panorama mode if you have a beautiful landscape in front of you that you just can't capture in a single shot. So here we're taking a look at Chrome. This actually escaped beta here at Google I/O. It's the full unbetaed version. So I'm just going to go to the URL bar here and try out the voice dictation. So here I just say Atlanta Braves. I'm on a pretty noisy pool deck at this point, but it actually picks up what I said from probably 2 feet away, pulls up some of the most recent Brave scores, followed by your typical search results underneath. So here we're taking a look at Google Now. This is perhaps the most significant addition to Android 4.1 compared to 4.0. Now this is something you have to opt into when you first start up the device. And what you saw just load here is the Google Now homepage, if you will. Now I've only had this device for a few days, so it hasn't learned an awful lot about me, but you can already see it pick up my favorite team, the Atlanta Braves, where I'm at, San Francisco, and the weather. And so this icon at the top allows you to speak to it, similar to Siri. In this example, I'm asking the phone the distance between San Francisco and Daly City. It gives me a list of search results. So then I try again with directions from San Francisco to Daly City. Just a subtly different way to ask the same question, and it pulls up maps and basically does exactly what I was hoping it would do with the first question. So there's obviously a disconnect here with the natural language recognition. In Siri, you're probably used to being able to ask a question multiple ways, and it still recognizes what you're trying to get at. But with Google Now, you have to be a bit more direct. Conveniently, Google does provide walking directions and mass transit directions and a drop-down there. So here I'm asking questions, basically just trying to see what Google Now knows compared to what it's just going to return as a list of search results. So I'm asking what time is it in Tahiti, and it obviously knows that. If you've ever Googled something similar, you would probably recognize that your first search result would actually be the answer, not a list of links. Same thing here with currency conversion. Google is usually pretty good at that, so it's no surprise that asking the question through Google Now yields a similar result. During our time with Google Now, actually one of the most confusing things was figuring out what Google Now would answer directly and what it wouldn't, and also learning how to ask it things in the way that it prefers to be asked. On the plus side, though, it is actually really good at recognizing what you're saying, even in extremely noisy environments. And if you're a fan of sports, just asking about a team will pull up the most recent results. And actually, if you ask about them enough, their cards will begin to show up, and then you can customize it so that it sends you push alerts and what have you before, during, and after the game. So in Android 4.1, voice search sort of acts as an extension to Google Now. So here we're in the messaging app, and I'm just pulling up a contact here that I'd like to compose a text message to. And instead of typing it on the keyboard, you just press the microphone, start speaking. This isn't a new concept or anything, but it really works well in Jellybean no lag whatsoever, and the accuracy was great in our time with it. However, if you don't want to use voice search, there's a new predictive keyboard. So what you're seeing here, see those predicted words up top above the keyboard, looks a heck of a lot like SwiftKey, except when you press and hold the middle button, you get a lot more options, more than just 3. So they've taken the idea that SwiftKey kind of innovated and improved upon that somewhat. So of course, one of the more talked about new additions to Jellybean is offline maps. Now earlier in the month, Google invited us to San Francisco to showcase exactly what this would offer, shortly before Apple ended up giving Maps the boot in favor of their own mapping solution for iOS 6. So here you'll see this Make Available Offline option. You'll find this everywhere within Maps now, but then you'll be asked to pinch and zoom the area that you would like to download. So the concept here is okay if you're a city dweller and you maybe only need to download one city at a time. But in practice, there's some issues here because as I'm zooming out trying to get a larger chunk of the map, you'll see that error on the bottom that I've zoomed out too far and it can't download them. So even on Wi-Fi, it will give you this error if you exceed around 86 megabytes of road. This limitation is actually one of the things that we weren't too pleased with when we saw the implementation of offline maps. If you look at Nokia Drive on the Lumia handsets, you can download entire states or even entire countries onto your phone, and making people pick certain portions, perhaps even before they even know where they're going to end up, seems like somewhat of a limitation that a company like Google with their mapping solution could have gotten around. So we're hoping that they change that in the future, but for now, you can only download around 86 megs of roads at one time. All in all, Jellybean definitely brings some nice things to the table. We're told that the Nexus S, the Galaxy Nexus, and the Motorola Zoom will see the update float in mid-July. Unfortunately, it's anyone's guess as to when it'll hit devices other than those in the Nexus family. However, if you absolutely have to have a bite of Jellybean right now, you can put your order in for the Nexus 7. It's the $199 tablet made by ASUS that will be the first device to actually ship with Jellybean already on board.